People all over the country are counting birds, and you can too. Come along with Sherry Price's third grade class and join in on the Great Backyard Bird Count.
Who wants to hold the feeder? Carry it down. Okay.
This feels really strong. You're really strong? Okay.
I hold it.
Second strongest. Right now.
Sew it. Sew it. Sew it. Who can be very careful?
I can.
Very careful. Don't poke anybody with this. One more piece. You can hold the top. And I'm going to carry this because it's sharp. Let's go down here.
Putting up a bird feeder is a great way to attract birds, and finding a good spot for your feeder is very important.
And we've got a mixed bag of trees here. We've got pine trees, other conifers. We've got some hardwoods, so we'll have different kinds of birds that like to be in these different kinds of trees.
What is the Great Backyard Bird Count? Scientists and bird watchers can learn a lot by knowing where the birds are. Bird populations are constantly changing, and the Great Backyard Bird Count is a snapshot of North American bird populations. Every year, the Cornell Laboratory of Ornithology compiles a list of the birds counted. This year, Mrs. Price's class will help by counting the birds they see at the schoolyard feeder.
And there we are. How about that?
Give us some hand. We did this. We did good. But not all the birds we'll see are coming to the feeder.
The hawk's coming closer. He's right there. Yeah.
Let's go see how we're doing over here.
Oh, it was like an eagle.
Big predators, like this red-shouldered hawk, won't be found at the feeder. Though they share many habits with songbirds, like nesting in the trees, they've adapted differently. In order to survive, they have to go hunting. Rodents and other small animals make up their food supply. Even snakes are on the menu for a red-shouldered hawk that's bringing food back to her brood. To get a good count, we need to let the birds that do use the feeder have a few days to get used to it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jeffdrollinger, and I'm a biologist with the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. What have you guys learned about birds so far since you've had your feeder up? In the back.
Birds like to eat seeds.
Birds like to eat seeds, exactly. What else have we learned?
Woodpeckers and other kinds of birds like to eat suet.
Excellent, excellent.
Jeffdrollinger knows a lot about birds, and he's come to class to talk about them and help us identify the birds at the feeder.
I brought you guys some flash guides, and these are called flash guides because they're really easy to look at. The birds are right on the little thing, and they unfold. So then you can get like all the birds. And on the inside, these are all the most common backyard birds, and these are really handy to use because not only that, but they're laminated. So you can spill stuff on them and it really doesn't hurt them.
What if you're like on a ferry, like some people, and sometimes I do, I throw bread out to the seagulls. Is that okay?
Really, it's not, because you're training them to eat something that's really not good for them. And the thing that you want to keep in mind is that we don't ever want to sort of train the animals to always think of us as their source of food. It's okay to feed birds in the bird feeder as long as they think of the feeder as sort of a wild environment. But you don't really want to train animals to eat things from your hand. And when you're feeding the seagulls, you're feeding them something that's not really good for them, and you're also training them that we're their source of their food. And you don't want animals to become dependent on people for food. Yes?
How come, like, if you, like, when a bird has just had its baby, how come if you go near it, the mom bird won't come back to its baby?
That's a myth, because they will come back. What you need to do anytime you find a baby bird, especially if it's on the ground, see if you can find the nest, and if you can, put the young back in the nest. And the parents will come back to it, just like your parents would if somebody put you back in the house. They'd come back, wouldn't they? So, baby birds are exactly the same thing. Just put them back in the nest. Now, if you can't get to the nest, because sometimes the nest is in a place where you can't really get to it, try to put them up in a tree or up in the crook of a tree, somewhere where they're up off the ground so the cats don't get them.
Finally, it's time to go outside and count the birds.
as we go outside, we're not going to be able to get really close to the feeder, because if we get really close to the feeder, the birds won't come. The other thing we have to keep in mind is that we have to be really quiet, because if there's a lot of noise, the birds will not come to the feeder as well. So you need to stay really kind of still once we get out close to the feeder. You need to keep your voices very low in a whisper. We're going to be out there for about 15 minutes, and what we want to do is we want to count the largest number of each type of bird that we see at one time. So if we see 4 blue jays at one time, then we'll put 4 on our sheets. But we're not going to just count them cumulatively, because we don't want to count the same bird twice. All right, now what we want to do, everybody watch the bird feeder, and let's wait for the birds to come back.
The birds were back in a matter of minutes.
Okay, we've got 2 juncos now. 3, 4, 5 juncos. 5 juncos. 6, 7, 8. A goldfinch. The downy is still on the bird feeder. There's a titmouse in the feeder. He just left.
It's a morning dog.
Is right now.
10 goldfinch.
How many goldfinches?
10. It has a red bill, Sam. It has a red bill.
How come mice have those little things on their head?
A little tuft. It's just the way they are. Some birds have top knots. Some birds are different colors. It's all sort of just the way they were made in the beginning. So each of them is adapted to a different place sort of in the environment. So some of them eat upside down. A good example of that, have you ever seen the nuthatches, which are the little black and white birds on there? They will go down a tree head first.
Whoa.
You know why they go down the tree head first?
No.
Because the woodpeckers go up the tree and look under the bark and under the little niches, and they pick the bugs out of all the little holes from the top. The nuthatches have learned then that nobody's looking for the bugs under the bottom halves of all the little niches. So they go down the tree upside down and look for everything that the woodpeckers missed. And that's how they've adapted to live with the woodpeckers. The woodpeckers go up the tree and the nuthatches go down the tree.
Time's up, and it's back to the classroom to see what we've counted.
Okay, we collected a lot of good information this morning. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually put it in the computer, and that data is going to go off to Cornell University, which is in New York. And they collect data from people from all over the United States. So your data is going to be part of information that people all across the United States are collecting.
Kelsey brings up the Great Backyard Bird Count website, and we begin to tell ornithologists everywhere what we've seen here in Hanover County.
Who can tell me how many downy woodpeckers we saw at one time? All right?
2.
2, okay. Kelsey, you want to put 2 under the downy woodpecker?
In just 15 minutes of the feeder, we saw plenty of birds, over 50.
2 downy woodpeckers, 4 blue jays, 2 American crows, no European starlings, 1 northern cardinal, 23 dark-eyed junco, 2 Carolina chickadee, 3 tuft titmouse, 2 common crackle, 1 house finch, 2 mourning doves, 12 American goldfinch, and 1 house sparrow.
All of our data just went off to Cornell University in New York. So now we're part of all the other people in the country who are collecting data at their bird feeders this weekend. So give yourselves a round of applause. There you go. You're all budding scientists now because you've collected data that somebody's going to use for research. So be proud of yourselves.
By looking at their own backyard in a new way, these students learned they could have fun and contribute to everyone's greater understanding of birds.
I like doing the backyard bird count because I like identifying the different birds.
I learned that you don't want to feed any kind of birds bread because you don't want to get them you don't want them to think that you're always going to give them food so they don't get used to like human food and stuff.
My name is Hunter, and the best kind of seed for birds is sunflower seed.
They like different kind of foods. Like most of them like bird seed because it gives them fat and more nutrients.
I know that if you go too close to the bird feeder, you would scare away the birds.
You really want to put the bird feeder where the trees are not around it, so the squirrels cannot jump and land on the bird feeder, so they cannot eat the seed.
I just got a bird feeder, and I'm going to plan on setting it up in spring break.
Like if you want to be some kind of a bird watcher person, you can like do this, and then that would help you start off.